All right, just bought another Jaguar I-Pace. Sight and drive unseen. I had one of these cars before. I was paying an outrageous amount of money for it, so I got rid of it. But I remember it being awesome, actually. I loved it. But I was in like a money-saving mode at the moment, so I got rid of it. And I got an i3 actually. But I really remember really liking this car, and I started every now and then I'd hop on Car Gurus or whatever and see what they're selling for. And you know, about a year ago they were still going for like 50, but I looked recently as I started thinking about getting rid of my Camaro, and I saw that some were going for like 45, and I was like, all right, that's kind of interesting. And then I looked a little bit more, and I found one down in Darien, Connecticut, being sold by a Jaguar dealer. Oh wow, the regen is really strong on this thing. That's awesome. I mean, you know, I had one of these before, but it was 4 years ago. I don't really remember it, and I didn't make a video about it. But I found one at Jaguar of Darien, Connecticut, for certified pre-owned for $37,000 with 55,000 miles on it. Some might say that's too high a mile. To me, doesn't bother me at all, because I don't really put a lot of miles on stuff. I'm just adjusting my HUD here. I love that these things have a heads-up display. Does that work? No, right there. Okay. Yeah, so it was go away. 37 grand, certified pre-owned, in great condition. It's black on black. It's got the, I really actually wanted the tan interior, but it was, I mean, not the tan interior, the red interior. But I ended up with tan, which in pictures doesn't look that great, but in person, God, it looks fucking phenomenal. I'm really thrilled with it, and I'm thrilled with the car in general. Now, again, this is my first time driving it, first time driving one of these in 4 years, and first time driving this one. And I already feel like I'm being wafted along as a Jaguar should. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm really happy with this. For 37,000 bucks, I've purchased an $80,000 Jaguar with a 200-ish mile range. I mean, well, there's a couple problems with these cars, but I've bought this car not to be my long-range cruiser, whatever. That's what the Gladiator is for. This car is just for like daily driving purposes. I love driving electric vehicles, but so many of them are so boring. And this is, you know, next to the Porsche Taycan, the driver's EV. All sorts of reviews will tell it that, and I remember it being that. So for 37 grand, cheaper than a used Mach-E, cheaper than a Kia EV6. I mean, cheaper than anything, really. I mean, you might be able to find a Model S out there. You can find a Model 3 for that less, but all of those cars that I have just named are leagues worse than this thing. Leagues and leagues worse. As far as like a luxury vehicle, they're not even close. As far as driving enjoyment, they're not even close. I think that these things are really great. So anyway, I'm taking her over to Standish, see how it drives. God, it's so much fun, and it's really, you know, they call this thing an SUV, but it's not. I mean, if you stand next to it, it is so short. It's almost, I mean, I swear it's barely taller than my wife's Model S. But yeah, I mean, so, yeah, I mean, I'm really pleased with myself right now. Of course, now I'm about to get stuck behind. Okay, wow, Jesus, fuck. Massive truck just jumped out in front of me on a blind corner. Yeah, so, well, now I can't drive fast, so I might as well just talk about it. Let's talk about driving dynamics and things like that. Or not that, but interior quality. So, again, if you've ever owned, you know, one of the $50,000-ish EVs today, they are Econo boxes with $30,000 of technology built into them. I actually like to say that they're grandma's Saturn. Now, I liked the Mach-E. I had one for a little while. I thought it was, I liked it actually. I liked that, you know, the hood was this big bulging sort of protruding thing. It made it feel masculine and Mustang-y. I liked Blue Cruise. That was nice. Loved the range on it. My California Route 1, even like in colder weather, would do like 280 miles, which is fantastic. That model was rear wheel drive, but I don't really drive in snow. And again, I've got Jeeps for that shit. So it wasn't really a problem for me. Interior quality was bad. Like, it wasn't appallingly bad. Like, I wouldn't like look around and say, oh, this is bad quality interior, but it was a Ford. You know what I mean? Like, it was very, very, very basic, as all $50,000-ish EVs are. Here's your screen. That's where you're going to control everything, and then everything else is just completely forgotten about. Styling, buttons, all of that is completely forgotten about. Versus this thing, I mean, it's every bit a Jaguar, you know, or a Jaguar, whatever you want to call it. It's got a very traditional sort of Land Rover Jaguar setup here. Comically enough, my brother has now sent me about 800 text messages in a row. I have Android Auto configured on this. That's his one of his staples. But so it keeps distracting me. But yeah, God knows what political argument he's trying to get me into at the moment. But yeah, I mean, it's a Jag. The seats are these. I don't know if they're made by Recaro or somebody, but they are. I got the performance seats. They're really, really nice seats. Super, super comfy. The leather is super nice. It's aged really well. This car again has 55,000 miles on it. It's 4 years old, and it feels brand new to me. I mean, honestly, steering wheel feels absolutely fantastic. Nicely leather wrapped. I don't know if it's vegan leather or whatever. Dash is really, really nice. I mean, this is like a really quality vehicle, and I'm so glad that they've basically completely tanked in depreciation, because now I can afford one. Well, I could have afforded it before, but now I can be happy about being able to afford one. This guy, holy moly, what are you doing, man? Gee whiz. It's one of the downsides of going into Standish here, is every now and then you get stuck behind somebody who's just gonna go 20 miles an hour. That's it. That's what they're gonna do, and you're gonna fucking deal with it. Yeah, but anyway, this car is really, really nice. I mean, it just, if you sit in a Kia, Ford, whatever, literally any other EV these days, short of, I don't know, the Rivian, maybe, I guess. I mean, the Rivian even feels cheaper than this. A lot of people call the Rivians Range Rover quality. They're not. They're nice cars, don't get me wrong. But they're somewhere in between European, the Germans, and American car quality. But this is really, really, really nice. Yeah, so now I'm in Standish. I can start driving around. I mean, there's one big problem with, well, actually, so let me start. Here's another text from my brother. This car it's on air ride, and it's a Jag, and the ride quality is so good. I mean, so good. It's not like an old man Jag. It feels flat and sporty, while simultaneously being able to soak up all the cracks, and I mean basically soak up all the New England in the road. Again, and with this thing has 55,000 miles on it, and I'm just cruising. This is the bad part of Standish. There is a part where Miles Standish gets absolutely like the roads are like brand new and fantastic, but this is the bad part, sort of leading into it. And it's just butter smooth, just butter smooth. Oh, it's so pleasant, but it doesn't feel roly-poly and wobbly because of it. Yeah, God, they did a really incredible job on the suspension on this thing. And it's so, well, I guess what I was getting at is a lot of EVs, short of the Rivian, tend to feel really homogenized. I mean, you get in an EV, you know, there's no engine noise, there's no real differentiator between power. I mean, when you really go flat out, yes, of course, some EVs are faster than others. Yeah, I mean, that was a super, super bumpy spot, and this thing just soaks it right up. Oh, absolutely lovely. This is so great. Yeah, but anyway, so EVs are really, there's very little in an EV that could really separate them from their competition these days, and that shows in the driving dynamics and the enjoyment. You know, I've had a lot of EVs, and I can't say that any of them, short of the Jag, were really particularly enjoyable to drive. I mean, the P100D was fun to get in and just slam it and make your friends puke and freak them out, whatever. That was cool. Wouldn't consider it a particularly fun, sporty car to drive. Mustang Mach-E was fun to drive, you know, but it wasn't a Mustang. It didn't, you know, make Mustang noises or really have that sort of feel. Haven't driven the Kia EV6, but I've heard a lot of the same thing. But this thing actually, you know, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what the recipe is that makes it feel sort of enjoyable to drive, but it is. It makes you want to drive aggressively and confidently, and there are little noises that you can turn on in the is this the really dusty bit? Yes, it is. Yeah. In the computer that make EV noises through the speaker, whatever. I turn all that shit off because I think it's silly. But this car is really, really, really fun to drive and fast as shit. I mean, they call it, you know, equating horsepower on EVs is kind of tricky because the model is the EV400, but that doesn't really mean much. So it's allegedly 400 horsepower, I think 550 foot-pounds of torque, but horsepower wins high-speed races, and EVs can't come close to winning high-speed races. We know that. They just don't have the gearing for them. So it's kind of a silly argument. So I think that generally, whenever you can take that horsepower statement and give it some sort of asterisk where it's like, it feels that fast to about 80 miles an hour, and then it really is just going to get passed by any ICE vehicle with a similar horsepower rating pretty quickly. But it does, I mean, for lowish speed, super twisty stuff, I mean, this thing is super, oh my God, yeah, wow. It actually, I was surprised at the power there. I was at about, geez, maybe like a quarter throttle. And I went to about 75%, and it came on hard. Oh yeah, wow, okay, here we go. And it's got a really great all-wheel drive system. The traction control even just came on, even though it's bone dry. Yeah, loads and loads of spare power to give for, like, you know, fun back road driving. And the steering, I haven't really hit any situation yet where I'd really care about steering feel yet. It does feel really bushed and numb-ish, but it is nice and stiff, and it does feel, you know, there's no dead spots. BMW 2 Series. There's none of that nonsense. It feels really good. I mean, and it does sort of entice you to want to drive quickly. I am in what Jag calls dynamic mode at the moment. I don't know what that means. Oh, I should also asterisk this with I only have a what do I have? I don't know, like 25% battery, so I'm not even getting fully what this thing is capable of. But I'm in what Jag calls dynamic mode. I don't know what it means, but I think it's the mode that offers up the most power. There's no sport, really. But it really is just a freaking joy to drive. And what's so cool about this car is when you're done doing yabo shit like this, which is the vast majority of the time, you just drive around like, you know, at least I do. I drive around like a normal person most of the time. It's really, really a joy to drive, and it's a very small SUV. but I am 6'2". That was actually one of my biggest remembrances of this car, is I felt I was really sold on the whole sort of crossover sizing, because I'm 6'2" and I am so freaking comfortable in this thing. It's fantastic. You know, my knee is banging up against whatever you want to call this setup here, but not in an uncomfortable way, and I've got loads of legroom over here, tons and tons of headroom. You tend to sit in this thing. I don't really like sedans anymore, or even coupes, really, because I'm kind of tired of almost like laying down in my car. I kind of like sitting a little bit more upright, but this thing, you definitely sit in it. The hip position is nice and low. I feel sort of encompassed by it, while it's still feeling low and sporty, and you know, whatever. It's definitely more of a crossover type seating position. I actually, if you look on the outside of this thing, I'm surprised that I can sit as sort of upright as I do in this car. Really nice. Yeah, geez, I'm really happy. Cool. I like being happy when I buy a car instead of just completely let down. See how long it lasts. But the really nice thing about this is, okay, so if it doesn't last, I spent 37 grand on it. I haven't done my typical CarMax offer thing yet, but hopefully they would offer me somewhere near what I paid. But the fact of the matter is, I didn't have to pay a new EV price for this thing. I paid pretty short money. So I would have a hard time finding a car that's as good as this, particularly an EV to drive for this price. That one always gives me, I have to lower. So this is kind of interesting here. So I'm going to go back to driving like a normal person here. So there's all sorts of fun. So this is one big caveat with this car, is it's got, so I'm going to pop her into comfort mode. Maybe I was in comfort mode. No, I guess I was in comfort mode. I thought I was in dynamic. So even in comfort mode, it was super aggressive. That's cool. So this thing is kind of cool. It's got buttons. Love buttons. I have the air ride, so I can raise it and lower it quite a bit. I actually took my old one off-roading a little bit. I mean, nothing crazy, but it's got all-wheel drive, and it's it's 2 motors, all-wheel drive. Another text message from my brother, and I'm not even catching all of them. 2 motors, all-wheel drive. Buttons here for dynamic modes. I think that's like a hill descent assist. Buttons here for the transmission, which is kind of strange. Park button right there. I actually want to. So this, everybody. I mean, if you're doing research on these cars, you kind of know about this. But these little buttons are kind of weird. So they've got little displays in them, and then so by default, it's showing me the temperature, which I always set to automatic. I think you're a monster if you don't. And then I push it to control my ventilated seat in my fancy Yancey Recaro seat. And then I pull it to control the fan, which I've set to auto, so I would never do the pull. The pull's a little awkward. The push is really easy. I think I can even just, I can just push down on the button itself. I don't have to push down on the outside. In fact, I'm gonna lower it down a little bit more. So then there's a screen here. In fact, maybe I'll pull over for configuring the climate. So you can configure the airflow, soft, balanced, powerful. I'll leave it at that. Air purity, I can decide how pure I'd like my air to be. Pull in here. Oh dear. So that'll be the end of the driving portion, but part of this bad boy. I've actually made myself a little electric vehicle sick by driving too aggressively through Standish. But so you can configure the purity. Presumably there's a filter somewhere that would have to be swapped if I bump that up. And then somewhere in here there is an option, and I think that all EVs should have this, to set up, smart climate. So smart climate will basically turn off like this person over here, so there's nobody sitting there, so they won't get the flow of the air. Only I'll get it. So the rest of the, the rest of the cabin theoretically will be a little bit warmer or cooler depending on what you set it to, but that makes the EV more efficient. Ironically enough, this is one of the least efficient EVs out there. You're lucky if you can get 2.5 miles per kilowatt out of this, which is fine in a Rivian. In a Rivian, that would be fantastic, but in like a, you know, basically a sedan, comparatively is pretty bad. But I don't actually care about this because, again, this isn't going to be my long distance car. This is just for driving around town, getting to work, maybe a 100 or 200 mile trip every now and then. But I would never attempt to do any sort of long distance in this thing, because the next point is the charging rate is quite slow. It maxes out at 100 kilowatts. So that would put it at, you know, if you're able to get 100 kilowatts for the entire time, that would put it at a charge time from 0 to 100 of 55 minutes, something like that. It's got a 90 kilowatt battery. Obviously you cannot do that, so the charge time on this car is pretty bad. But what I found through EV ownership is I actually very rarely end up using third-party chargers for charging. I charge at home. The only time you ever use those third-party chargers is when you're on a road trip, and again, this isn't going to be my road trip car, so that's fine with me. Now, I thought that there was somewhere in here, so you can do smart climate. Yeah, so it's configured, you can't see this, but it's configured to literally just blow air on me because I'm the only occupant in the car, and it's detected that, which is really cool. What else do I have down here? So I got my seat control, yeah, so my ventilated seat controls. Here, why don't I even just grab this guy off, y'all? Yeah, so let's have some fun here. Alright, because I don't really think anybody else has actually gone through this. So this is kind of interesting. So down here, yeah, got all this stuff. So I can configure the display, select startup screen. I'll just set that to last used. Climate. So yeah, auto airflow. Oh, why'd you do that? So yeah, well, alright, I'll get to that in a second. But this system is known for being terrible, and it kind of is. The good news is you can get Android Auto on here or CarPlay, so it's really kind of a moot point. Air purity, I could figure that. But what I was doing a second ago is, so you've got all sorts of buttons here. I don't know what nano is. I'll have to Google that. Nano air. I think I actually remember what that meant at some point. Yeah, so I can configure the back seats, the front seats, and in here is where you do the smart climate stuff. So you can see it's only blowing on me. Obviously it will, just through osmosis, cool the cabin, but it's going to blow all the cold air on me, which is ideal. And I can configure the seats, front cooled, front heated and cooled, rear, I don't know. Oh yeah, here rear I think is cooled as well. They look like they're cooled, so that's cool. And then I got like, yeah, defroster or whatever. So, but yeah, you don't spend a lot of time in this display here. You spend most of the time up here, which is the terrible one. Yeah, so perfect example. Here we go. Okay, yep. Okay, try one more time. There's a lot of lag in this system. It's really annoying, you know. And then there's all sorts of configurability in here. Look at this one, dynamic eye. I'm in dynamic mode, so I'm going to switch to dynamic mode. Right. Drive motor. Oh, cool. I'll set that to comfort dynamic. Steering. Ah, dynamic steering. Suspension dynamic. I want it all dynamic. And then what's this little button do? A little lap timer. G meter. Oh, cool. Yeah, that's very useful. But this is actually quite useful. So I bet, wow, I wonder what it feels like now. More bonkers, I assume. Well, so anyway, I don't have much else to say about it. I mean, it's a really nice car. Seats are fantastic. Loads of room back there. Dog beds. There's even like a decent amount of room behind me from where I set my normal driving position. Rear window view is comical. I mean, really bad. Yeah, I don't have the little magical, there's like a camera that comes on newer Land Rovers and Jags. I don't have that. Oh yeah, so there's loads of, so I love this actually. I can set my map as my screen here, which is great because on an EV, like, you don't need an RPM gauge. You know, I got speed down there, so what else do I need? Tons of configurability, and this car, definitely get, I think it's the HSE, can I change my, no. It's the HSE that comes standard with it, but the SE is an optional adaptive cruise control with steering assist, and it's like real deal steering assist. It's not just a lane keep assist. You can pop in here. There's my HUD, by the way. Yay. But you can pop into here and do, nope, not that. No, back. There's actually like more configurability in here than there is in the main screen. But yeah, steering assistance, cruise steering assist, and that's like a lane centering, following the car in front of you, whole deal, which is really good. My only beef with this system is I think once you drop below 20 miles an hour and you try and start it up again, you have to get back over like 14 or something. Yeah, anyway, so I'm very, very pleased with my new Jag. And it's a Jag, it says Jag on it, you know? Like, even the key, came in a box from a Jaguar dealership with a note. It says, look at that, how fantastic is that? Yes, Jaguar. Yeah, these things are an incredible bargain at this point. And it's not like I'm buying some old clapper. I mean, it's got 55,000 on it, yeah, but that's not a lot for me. And the warranty will absolutely expire before I go over in miles, and it's only 4 years old, so it's got 4 more years of battery warranty on it, which, let's face facts, will probably, I probably won't own it anymore by the time the warranty expires. So yeah, great car. Feel free to ask me anything about it if you've got any questions, but these things are becoming a really, really incredible bargain. So anyway, yeah, thanks for watching. Adios.